Hey there, it's Kristen. And before we dive into today's episode, I have a tiny favor to ask. I'm planning some exciting stuff this year for the podcast and my courses, and I would really love your input. I put together a super quick survey. It's mostly multiple choice and shouldn't take you more than a few minutes. Your feedback will directly shape the content I create this year, so I can make sure it's exactly what you need to thrive in your business without the hustle. Because I know your time is precious, everyone who completes the survey gets entered into a giveaway where 2 lucky winners will get a $50 gift card to Amazon or Target, your choice. It's just a little thank you for helping me make this year on the show the best yet. Head over to kristendoyle.co/survey, or you can find the link in the show notes. The giveaway ends on April 14th, so don't wait too long. Hey y'all, today is a special episode where I get to talk to Jessica Davault. Jessica is a speech-language pathologist in Texas and the author of the social skills book, Devin Makes a Friend. But she is also the owner of the Gift of Gab store on TPT. Jessica loves creating teaching guides that help guide educators through the process of strategically teaching complex topics like social communication so that they can focus on teaching with confidence. Today, Jessica and I are talking about motherhood, balancing it all in your business, and how she is using SEO to grow her business during nap time. All right, let's get to the show. Hey, TPT sellers, ready to see growth in your business? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Savvy Teacher Seller. I'm Kristen Doyle, and I'm here to give you no-fluff tools and strategies that will really make an impact on your sales. Let's get started, y'all. Welcome, Jessica. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. Thank you for taking some time to be here. Can you tell us just a little bit about kind of how you started your TPT business?
So I started my TPT business back in 2017. I had a teacher friend at the campus that I was working. She was the first grade teacher, and she had left to go on, not maternity leave. She left the classroom and she started TPT after she had her first baby. And so she started it and she was like, Jessica, you've got to do this. This is amazing. This is a great way to earn extra money, because she knew that I was wanting to leave the classroom at that time. And so we had met at Starbucks and she was trying to convince me to start a store. And I was like, okay, sure, I can do this. So I went, and I was pregnant at the time. I don't think I said that. I was pregnant with my son at the time. And I went and I bought like a $200 computer, and I sat down in my bed and was like, okay, I'm going to start TPT. I can do this. I can figure it out. And I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. I mean, none. I literally remember texting my friend and was like, okay, I just opened PowerPoint and the screen is huge. Like, the default one is really like that wide screen. I was like, how do I turn it into the size of a paper? Like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
So I started literally from scratch with like nothing. I had no clue what I was doing. So anyways, started there and then just kind of kept learning a little bit at a time until I've gotten to where I am now.
So funny that you both kind of started right around the time you were having babies, because I did too.
Yeah.
I started my store when my son was, 2 or 3 months old. It was over that summer, kind of right on the end of my maternity leave. And I don't know why I thought I should start a business and have a baby and go back to work all at the same time. But I didn't. It worked out.
I didn't realize that it was a business at the time. Like, it just was like, oh, I'll just mess around on my computer and I'll make money for it, which I guess shows how my mindset has changed over the past few
and
years.
I think that's where so many of us started, was this is just a little hobby thing. I'm just going to throw some stuff up on TPT and see what happens. And then you all of a sudden realize somewhere down the road, like, oh crap, I'm running a business right now.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have to treat it like a business, and I have to think about taxes and marketing and
yes, and strategy, and yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when I started. I remember working during his nap time back in the glorious days when he would nap for like 3 hours at a time and like just sit and pound out like my first few resources. And that was what I did for a long time, was it was my nap time hustle. I guess technically it still is, but now it's my quiet time hustle instead of nap time because my babies don't nap anymore.
Oh, yeah. No, we are all the way out of naps at my house, too. I'm not even trying anymore.
Yeah, it's just go upstairs for like an hour.
Right? Just let mommy work for a minute.
Yes.
So, speaking of things that you're doing for work, what do you find? I know you are squeezing work in when you can. And so, how has that kind of affected what you're able to do for your business and what you're focusing on?
Okay, that's a good question. I have like this hybrid life is what I call it. So I do work part-time. I'm a speech pathologist. So I do work part-time. I see a few kids. I'm not in the public schools anymore. I work at a private school. So I do see some kids there. And then I stay at home, which I have in air quotes, part-time because I do the school, then I do part-time, and then I do TPT kind of in the mix. And so my like strategy for doing stuff is like my creation strategy will mostly be if I see my own students needing something and I like to make for my own students that I'm seeing and finding ways to like work for them. So if I can make it myself, I like to make it myself. And usually, I just feel like it's a little bit better because I have that personal connection and do that. So if I get new ideas, that's usually where it comes from, is from working with them. I work and get the ideas there. And then, like I said, my quiet time, nap time hustle is when I really either will work on the new product creation or I'll work on, either updating stuff or marketing stuff or whatever. And like, for the longest time, my from 1 to 3:30 was my TPT time. And I would crank out as much as I could from 1 to 3:30 every day. And that has changed a little this year. My son went to kindergarten. So still working on how the new schedule is going to look. But that was kind of my time for that.
As moms who are working basically full-time jobs. Yours is kind of split between different things, but we're really still working full-time. That's how mine is too, because I'm split between my web design and my SEO coaching and my TPT store. So I'm really still working full-time, even though I'm at home. And it's just a constant adjustment. We're always shifting and changing and adjusting what we're working on and how it's all going to fit into our life.
Yes, I feel like I always have like 50 plates spinning in the air at one time, and I'm trying to keep them all up and not let everything crash to the ground.
Well, and I think for me, that is one of the reasons I like SEO so much. And I know that we are going to talk a little about what you've been doing with SEO in your store today. But that's one of the things I like about it is that it's that thing I can do in a little bit of time, and I don't have to keep cranking out content. It's, something that lasts longer, something that I can put in a little time now and see results for months or years to come from that work that I did. What about you? What kind of led you into learning about SEO for your business?
Okay, first of all, just exactly, I want to touch on like what you said was I have a very strong policy of the things in my store, the things that I'm going to learn and work on as far as marketing have to have some sort of long-term value. Like I don't even have an Instagram because I tried it and I got so frustrated that I would spend all of this time trying to make this content and it would be gone in 2 seconds and nobody would interact with it and nobody would do anything. And so I would be on my phone constantly telling my kids, stop. Mommy needs to post this. Mommy needs to post this. And then nothing would happen. And so I went to blogging. I do YouTube. I learned about the SEO for all of those reasons of I want everything I focus on to have a long-term effect where it's going to keep working when I'm not working and I don't have to be sitting with it all the time.
Yeah. And you don't have to keep cranking out content because on your blog and your YouTube, those are both very SEO driven platforms where you can put your stuff out and get it up in search results. And then it just keeps rolling along when you're not necessarily publishing new content or not nearly as often, at least, publishing new content. Yeah. What were you trying that wasn't working before you started working SEO? I know you said you had an Instagram account.
I did Instagram for a little bit. It didn't work. I really, at the very beginning of my journey, was just kind of like shooting stuff all over the place and had no clue. I had no strategy what I was doing at all. So the Instagram is gone. Let's see. I do Pinterest. Like I said, I do YouTube. I've written a book. So I have some stuff on Amazon and I do the blog and TPT.
I feel like I think spread all over just like I am. You do things everywhere.
I do. And I always have like a million big ideas and I just want to like run with the idea as fast as I can until it's out of my head or it drives me absolutely crazy.
Yes. I can completely relate. So when it comes to SEO, I know you are one of my SEO for Teacher Authors students. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned and how that has benefited you?
Yeah. So like I said, I've said a few times, I had no clue what I was doing when I started, and I didn't even know what SEO was. I mean, I didn't even know how to turn a paper to paper size in PowerPoint. So it was, again, part of my like journey. This same friend that I mentioned has really been like really helpful as we've gone through this journey together. She's still TPTing too. And I remember when I got my blog and I was telling her about it and I was so excited that I had got it set up. And she was telling me like, oh, I can't wait, to get Yoast was what she wanted, the Yoast plugin. She's like, because I want to learn more about SEO and make sure I'm optimizing my blog posts. And we were texting and I literally like switched over to my browser in my phone and was like, what is SEO? Because I had absolutely no clue what it was.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know what she's talking about.
Yeah, I was like, this is another language. And she's been like that throughout our whole relationship. She's always kind of like a few steps above me, which has been really helpful.
So good to have that friend who's like a step ahead of you that you can learn from and bounce ideas off of.
Yes. And she's such a sweet, like encouraging person too. Like she's great. So anyways, I like Googling SEO, finally see, okay, this is what SEO is. And kind of just keep it in the back of my head because I was so overwhelmed with all of it. Like it just seemed like so much for somebody who, doesn't know anything. And I then remember, I don't remember like the timeline for all of this, but that was when I first heard about SEO. And then I remember the 2020 virtual TPT conference. And I believe you did a presentation.
I did.
Yes. And I watched it. And that's how I got connected with you.
I think it was what TPT sellers need to know about SEO or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe. And that may be why I was watching it because I needed to know.
Right.
So that's how I found you. And that's how I got connected with you. And I signed up for your email list. And then I remember, I guess it was a few months after the conference. I remember like sitting in the backyard and I was pushing my kids on the swing. And I like got the email that said that you were opening an SEO course. And I like sat there and was like, I really want to do this. Like, I really want to do this, but I don't know if I can justify it because I'm so cheap and stingy that I didn't know if I wanted to pay for it. And I don't even think I did it the first round you opened it. And I remember regretting it and kicking myself the entire time. And then when I got the email the second time, I was like, I'm doing it. Like, I have to do this.
I don't know how many times I have been that person. Like, the cart closes on something, and as soon as it does, I'm like, man, I really should have done that.
I know.
And then I'm just waiting for the next time it opens.
But that's kind of like my strategy, like just like shopping in general is like, okay, if I put it away and I keep thinking about it, that means I really want it. And then I'll go back and get it and I'll be happy. If I forget about it and I don't care, then it's not something I need.
Yeah, that's so true.
So I kept thinking about it. And so then the second time the course opened, I think I like got it within like seconds of you opening it because I knew I needed it. And walked through the course and I felt like I kind of, like I said, I've learned bits and pieces along the way. So it kind of took things I was already doing and gave me more of like the reason why behind them and like an understanding and like a foundation I still don't think I'm an expert by any means, but I have a functional knowledge of what I need to be doing, a basic understanding of why.
Yeah.
And I have seen some results from it that have been, really helpful.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of those results a little bit.
Yeah.
What have you seen?
So the very first SEO thing that I did, and I actually have some numbers here because I wanted to share them, was when I started optimizing titles on TPT. And this was like the biggest change in my business of when I went from making like not as much to like really seeing growth almost overnight, like kind of like you talked about. It like was an instantaneous, this is awesome kind of a moment. Okay. So I started optimizing the titles in February of 2019 was actually when I did this in TPT. And March of 2019 was when I started like learning how to optimize stuff. February of 2019, before I knew anything and was just totally winging it, I made $143 from my store.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. March of 2019, when I started optimizing, I jumped that up to $230. And then April of 2019, it went up to $358. So each month it started slowly growing until 1 year from when I started in March of 2020, I was at $2,460 for the earning.
That's awesome. Like what growth in a year?
I know. That was like the coolest thing. And so that was, part of it, learning how to optimize like the snippet and get better at my snippets. And then learning how from your course, I learned how to optimize like my blog better. And so my blog traffic is always like my second coming in for earning wise from TPT as well. So it's just like all of this, like, we talked about many plates in the air, but it's like this complex machine where everything is just working together to kind of grow and improve.
And you almost have to have multiple plates in the air. I think it's about how much attention each of those plates is taking, right? Are you constantly juggling them all, or can you set this one spinning and let it go and set the next one spinning and let it go?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a whole different experience, right? From juggling all the time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing. Love hearing results stories. So thank you for sharing those.
No problem.
I
like hearing the numbers. So
yeah, the numbers are so fun. I love looking back at mine and seeing like, oh, this is when I changed that, and look at my sales increase because of it.
Exactly. And I don't have a lot of places like that where I'm like, this is what I did that changed it. But that was one of the things that I was like, this is what changed. And this is where the growth really started to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you really started implementing some SEO strategies before you even took the course. And then you took the course. And I'm curious to hear kind of how are things going since you took the course and started implementing even more things and learning more about SEO?
Yeah. So I have had consistent, well, I'm going to put a little caveat in because we're recording this in 2022 and the teacher shortage and inflation and all this stuff is crazy. So up until like
2022.
Yes, except for August 2022, I have had consistent growth every month. My goal is always to beat every month from the year before. So if I'm talking August 2022, I wanted to beat August 2021. And so I have hit that goal every year until now.
Yeah. And I think that's such a smart way to set your goals because everything on TPT is so seasonal. So comparing to the same month the year before, that's what I always do in my goal setting as well. I look at what did I make last year? How much do I want? What's my increase goal for this year?
Yeah. So anyways, I would say from the course, that has definitely played a part in my blog. I feel like I have a really good conversion rate from my blog. So I'm getting people in and I am understanding the logistics of how that works and all of those little boxes that I need to be checking to optimize it and again, try to get the biggest bang for my buck. So the blog has grown significantly. And that is mostly what I attribute the growth to from your course. If I had not known some of these other SEO things before the course, that definitely would have helped with the TPT store as well. And again, that foundational understanding and the reason why is really was my biggest takeaway. Instead of just like doing what somebody told me to do, now I understand. And I guess I have some more like, and I guess I have much more like empowerment. I feel more empowered to kind of do things for myself.
Yeah. I was going to say that gives you, when you understand the foundation, you understand the why behind the things that we do, that gives you the confidence to bend the rules sometimes, or break the rules even, or push the envelope and try something that you think might go too far, and know that you can, you're either going to push and it's going to go too far and you can always walk it back and change whatever you were doing, or you're going to push a little harder and it's going to work better than you could have ever imagined. So I think understanding that foundation really does give you that sort of confidence to be able to try those different things and branch out from just, plugging away at your blog posts and checking to make sure your SEO plugin gives you the green and moving on. But you can actually kind of push things a little bit and try to help things move up even higher in the search.
Yeah. And I'll also say other areas that I've worked on SEO, you don't always have the little green light like you have on your blog. So like, when I'm writing my descriptions on TPT and I'm doing my titles, there's not a little green light there to make sure I'm getting it.
And your YouTube stuff.
Exactly. With the YouTube stuff, there's no little green light there. So I'm taking all of those strategies, trying to put it in there. When I was doing on Amazon for the book and I was trying to like write the description and all of that stuff, there was no little green light there. Like I was having to take things that I've learned in other places. And it was a little nerve-wracking being like, I don't even know if I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
But I knew a strategy and I felt confident, being like, okay, here is the snippet. Here's the keywords I'm shooting for. I can at least do this and know that I've made a solid effort at using some good SEO.
Yeah. And the reality is, and I know we've talked about this in the course on some of our calls and stuff too, but the reality is your SEO plugin, whether you're using Yoast or Rank Math or something else, whatever green light they give you, it is really based on them scanning your text. And so a lot of times that requires you to write things in a way that really doesn't feel natural, just to make them recognize that you use the right keywords and things, when then it makes your post not read well. And there are lots of other things you can be doing for SEO. Some of those rules that I break on a regular basis are changing the way I use the keyword so that it reads naturally, instead of following along with what my plugin is telling me I need to do. There are a lot of times my plugin doesn't like how I've used keywords, but I know, because I understand SEO, that this is really okay. Maybe they gave me a 75 or whatever on my SEO plugin, but I know that I've got the keywords in there more. It's just being used in a different way that I know Google understands, but the plugin can't, because they're just limited in that way.
Right. And that's similar, like, being a speech pathologist, I have a lot of technical words or ways that we say things, and the plugin, is like, well, these aren't, these don't match. These, aren't like synonyms or equal or whatever. And I'm like, no, but they are. Like, I know that they are, and this will be okay. Yeah. Like,
and ultimately, Google knows a lot more than the SEO plugins do. So Google is probably picking up on them, even though your SEO plugin might not be.
Yeah. Well, and then anybody who's, reading it would read it and know that it is, that it makes sense.
Yeah. So you were saying that your blog is consistently your second highest traffic source. I'm assuming after TPT search, because that's everyone's highest.
Yes.
One question people are always asking is how to get people from your blog to your product. So can you share a couple of strategies that have worked well for you?
So my niche, or my favorite products that I've made, I call them teaching guides. And I specifically, so like I said, I have made resources for my own students, and not just my own students. I liked, and especially in the very beginning, picking areas that I did not feel confident in as a speech pathologist. And I felt insecure teaching. And I wanted somebody to walk me through all of the steps of, okay, here is how we start with, say, nonverbal communication. Here's where we're going to start. Here's how we're going to teach it in a very structured, very strategic way. And so that is like the whole resource is,
I love
that.
Me
walking. Thank you. I go back and use them all the time. And I love going back and telling parents, like, I have a plan. Like, I feel really confident in explaining, here's what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and with this teacher shortage we have right now, every district everywhere is hiring so much new staff. We're going to have more brand new people in teaching positions, counseling positions, speech pathologists. We're going to have so many more new people who don't know everything yet. They feel like they get thrown in and they need that support desperately. That's one of the things I have been preaching this summer is whatever you can do to support brand new teachers and your resources, like now is the time to do that. And I feel like that whole product line, that's exactly what you're doing.
Thank you. I try because it was, the idea is when I was a newer speech path, what did I wish somebody had taught me, because these social skills are so tricky to teach because they're so vague and most of us have just naturally picked up on them. So breaking them down into a step-by-step and strategic, pattern is it's really pretty tricky for us who just kind of get it. So anyways, what I have done on the blog is I go back and I basically reteach how to do that. So I take the steps kind of out of the resource and I teach them, okay, here's how to teach nonverbal communication. And then I rewrite kind of the strategy in the blog. And then at the end, I'll put kind of like a little thing like, if this sounds like a great, fit for your caseload and for your kids, I have, this nonverbal communication teaching guide in my store that follows this exact same pattern. So it kind of gives them the opportunity to either DIY it using my methods and they've kind of seen my strategy and they know what they're going to get in the resource, or they want to save, some of that time and that really hard planning, they can go over and just grab the resource from my store. So that's mostly what my blog posts kind of are. And that's mostly what my YouTube videos are too.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question and it might sound like I'm pushing back and playing devil's advocate, but I really just want you to tell everybody else because I know this is a great strategy. One thing that I hear from people a lot is this fear that if they tell all about what's in the product, if they put the whole teaching strategy in a blog post, then people won't buy the product. So what would you say to that? What have you seen as results, or what do you find with your audience after they read that blog post? Do they take off and do it on their own, or are they headed over to your store to buy the product?
No, they do not. I'm sure some of them do it on their own. But what they have realized as they've read my blog post is that I have saved them a lot of time by just, first of all, creating the worksheets. So even within the blog post, they're not getting the worksheets and, the companion activities that go along with it. So that alone is saving them a bunch of time to not have to actually create the hard copies of things. The strategy itself also takes a long time to kind of think through and implement. And I say all the time, I actually became a better speech pathologist when I stopped working full time because I had a minute to think through how to teach these things.
Yeah.
I could sit for 3 hours at a time during nap time and process how to teach nonverbal communication or conversation skills or friendship making skills. And the classroom, when I was working full time, it was just so stressful always seeing kids. I never had time to do that. So anyways, I think they realize that I'm saving them a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of brain power when they can just click over to the store and for $5 or $6 get all of this and just be ready to go. And they can walk home at the end of the day instead of, doing that. And I would also say that I have won them over with my knowledge and my expertness, which I say kind of loosely, but they can see that I know what I'm talking about when they've read the blog post. So they know with confidence when they head over to the resource that what's in this resource is going to match like a theory or a thought pattern that they're already believing in.
Yeah, absolutely. It sets you up as that expert. It makes you the person that they trust. And then, like you said, I have found in my own store, I've done some kind of similar blog posts, and people, when they like your method, when they realize that this is a good strategy, the people who are my ideal customers, and I'm sure yours too, they don't want to go create it themselves. I'm sure there are people who read it and go create things themselves because that's their style, and that's fine. And you're there providing a great service for them too. But those people that are our ideal customers are the ones who would just rather fork over the $5 and buy the already done product ready to go and not have to worry about creating anything.
Yeah.
Definitely. So you're really providing them a great service and then filling that need right where they need it too. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. This was fun. I loved learning a little bit more about your business and talking about how you're using SEO to really drive that blog traffic and get people into your store. That's always such a fun thing for me to chat with people about. I always like to leave my listeners with an action step. So what would you suggest as kind of a first step for any TPT sellers who are maybe new to thinking about their SEO, or they're trying to figure out how to leverage SEO in their TPT business?
My tip would be learning how to make an engaging and interesting snippet that kind of has like a hook that also is incorporating your keyword. So for example, like I can remember when I first started, I would have probably, that first line in the resource or the product description would have been something like, this product has 21 pages to teach nonverbal communication.
Yep.
And even now I like cringe because I hate that, like, this product. Like, I never call them products anymore. I'm like, this is a resource. Like, this is something to help you. But anyways, but now, like, for that nonverbal communication resource, it would be something like, nonverbal communication can be really tricky to teach. Most of us have learned this social skill effortlessly, which makes breaking it down into easy to understand lessons, difficult. So just kind of learning how to, like, okay, I've touched on a pain point a little bit, and I've also inserted that keyword of, nonverbal communication and social skills, and I've kind of all slid it and weaved it together to make something that somebody reads it and they're intrigued by and want to click on instead of just putting it out there. So that would be my tip, is learning how to rewrite those snippets with your keywords, but also in a way that is interesting to your buyer.
Yeah, I love that tip. Absolutely. And it's a tricky little thing to work through, to get the keywords in, but also get that kind of emotional connection with whatever their pain point is you're solving, and tell a little bit about your resource at the same time. It can feel a little tricky, but it is really one of those skills that the more you practice it, the easier it gets, and the more naturally those phrases and those paragraphs kind of just flow.
Yes, definitely. It's almost like a puzzle, and you're putting all the pieces together, and then you get it and you're like, ooh, this is satisfying. Like, this is good. Yeah.
Yes. Well, before we go, please tell everybody where they can find you if they want to connect with you a little bit.
Yeah, I'm the Gift of Gab on TPT is my store, and it is the Gift of Gab. There's some other ones that are variations on that now. And then for my blog, it is the-gift-of-gab.com, because I did not realize, again, when I started, that this was, I needed to have something a little bit more unique, because there's lots of the Gifts of Gabs out there. So anyways, you got to have the dashes. And then on YouTube, it's the Gift of Gab Speech Therapy. You can search for that and find it. And then on Amazon, I have a book called Devin Makes a Friend. And that is, you can just search for that. It's a social skills, making friends teaching book.
Thank you so much for being here and chatting today. It was so good talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited. I have always had a dream to be on a podcast. So this has crossed something off my bucket list today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, take a screenshot and share it on Instagram and tag us. You can also get all of Jessica's information and connect with her right in the show notes at kristendoyle.co/podcast. Talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share it with another teacher seller who would also find it helpful. For more resources on growing your TPT business, head to kristendoyle.co/TPT. Talk to you soon.